Hey there, everybody. How are you doing? It's me, Chris Herman, here for another episode of On Deck, brought to you right here from the Herman Agency in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where the weather outside is not so frightful. Oof, how'd you like that? It is the holiday season, so I hope you're all doing well. I hope your lead up to Christmas and New Year's and your follow out of Hanukkah and everything else that's going on this time of year has been going well. Today's topic is inflation, okay? And I'm going to start off by saying I am not here to give any type of financial advice. This is just sharing of information that I think that you might find valuable. And as always, I'm sharing information as I acquire it, have the time to think about it and process it so that I can share it with you. And my desire is always to enter into dialogue. So I'm hoping that I say stuff that makes you go, I don't agree with that, or he's wrong, or he's right, and then we can start talking about it because I want to learn more, but I'm going to do that by sharing information with you. So today's topic, inflation. So certainly you'd have to be living under a rock, not in Iraq, but under a rock, to not have heard that we are experiencing some inflation. I think the number in November was 6.8%. Which, maybe that sounds like a lot. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know what your perspective on that is. I don't know that it really matters, and not that it doesn't matter, but for the purposes of this conversation, I think that we're all seeing things. For example, the other day, I was going to order some delivery food at home. And there's a vegan restaurant by my house that my family, we like, and we've gone to there, but now we were ordering on Uber Eats. And I went into the app and I just started ordering all the things that we would get, like a couple veggie burger, Impossible burgers, some pizzas for the kids, blah, 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 blah. And I ordered it all and I put everything in the cart and I looked and I was like, Impossible burger, like literally like a burger and some potatoes that came with it, $20 from, this is not a fancy place, right? $20 for a burger. For an Impossible burger, $20. Like the whole bill was like $110, and I had already gotten to the point where it was like I wanted this food, so I did it. But I felt terrible. I was like, holy shit! I cannot believe I just rang up like $110 bill for basically a couple of Impossible burgers, some kids' pizzas, nothing else, right? And it didn't used to cost that much. It didn't. So that's a small little example of inflation. We're seeing it in gas prices. We also know that, prices on things are going up in the clearly in the automotive industry, prices have gone crazy because there's no inventory, right? So when supply is significantly less than demand, what happens to the price? Well, it goes up. But what is more fascinating about this topic and why I wanted to talk about it today is this. I just recently saw that 38 to 40% of all of the US dollars in circulation have been printed in the last 18 months. Just like stop and think about that for a second. 38% of all the paper currency in circulation in the United States was printed in the last 38 months. That's insane. And I had no idea that that is what was happening, right? So we went into the pandemic and the government started supporting citizens in the form of direct payment checks to individuals and households. It supported businesses in the form of PPP loans, which we were grateful and happy enough. I'm grateful that we received ours. Very helpful to our business. But one of the ways that they were able to do this is literally just turn on the printing press and start cranking out cash to the tune of the fact that let's call it 38 out of every $100 in circulation were printed in the last 18 months. Like, that's mind-boggling. And so when I heard that, I said, man, I really don't understand this topic that much with inflation. I mean, you hear about it, like prices are going up and what does that mean? But what does it really mean? And so I dug into it further. And when you think about it, we are living now in an environment where because we've flooded the market with new cash, that has driven the prices of a lot of things up, and it has made your dollar worth less. And so if I understand it correctly, on an annual basis, typically we see about a 2% inflation, 2 to 3% inflation, which means, your money is becoming less valuable year after year. That's why people who have money are constantly looking for meaningful investments to put their money into that outperform that. Because if you just sit on your cash, as Grant Cardone will tell you, cash is trash, right? You might as well don't set it on fire. But the point is if you're just sitting there with cash, all it is doing is losing its purchasing power over time. That's all it's doing. Now, this has been happening for years, but this sent me down the rabbit hole of learning about inflation and hyperinflation, and you start to get into these videos online where you see what happened in Germany before World War II. You've seen what recently happened in Venezuela. Typically what happens is countries, when they get into some trouble and they don't have enough cash or capital to honor their debts, what do? They start printing more, right? And they start paying off their debts with the money that they're printing. But in doing so, they're driving the value of that cash down. And that's happened countless times over the years, and it still happens now. And so this just led me down this rabbit hole. And if you've watched some of my other videos recently, I've been talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency, NFTs. All of this stuff is really starting to become intertwined. And when you go down the blockchain crypto wormhole, which once you get into it, man, you're in, and I'm in, just learning about it, okay? Again, not an expert, still just learning here and sharing the information as it comes. But I hope that these words are stimulating you to go, I didn't know about that. Let me look into that a little bit more, because ultimately this stuff is going to affect you in your life. But you start getting into this world, and then you start hearing people talk about fiat currency, right? What is fiat currency? Fiat currency is essentially the paper currency issued by governments that we all use to interact and transact with, that is technically not backed by anything other than the promise from the government that note is worth something, right? So, most of you have heard that for years we were on the gold standard, right? Going back hundreds of years, what was currency? Currency was coins. It was gold, and then at some point along the way, people realized that, carrying around and transacting in precious metals was not really the most efficient way to conduct financial transactions. And so then governments started issuing bills in relationship to a physical asset, which in most cases it was determined that was gold. So the dollar represented a piece or an amount of gold. And so that dollar had value traced back to a physical asset. In this case, it was gold. Well, it was in 1971 that Richard Nixon moved the United States and ultimately, I believe, the world off of the gold standard, and money just became what is now called fiat currency. Now, I don't know if the word fiat currency started in 1971 or if it goes back further, so forgive me. Again, this is not financial advice. I really am just learning about this, but I'm putting it out there because it's fascinating. But you have countries now that are able to, when they need to, crank out currency. And so what we have now seen in recent times as a result of the pandemic is that the U.S. government basically turned on the printing press and started cranking out dollars at a very high rate. And so there are some people online that I'm following. One of them is a guy named Michael Saylor, who is the CEO of a company called Micro Technologies, a very successful computer software company. Billionaire guy, 56 years old. He's now become like one of the leading evangelists for Bitcoin. Incredibly intelligent, MIT graduate, got a strong technical background, has the ability to explain financial markets and transactions and currencies in a very down-to-earth way that I found very easy to absorb. But we're now going from 2 and 3% inflation to 7, 8. Now, as they start cranking out this additional capital, you start seeing the value of money depreciating at as much as 15 to 18% per year. So think about that. How hard do you have to work to generate 10% more revenue a year, 15% more revenue a year? If your business is growing 10% year over year, at this stage, you might not even be keeping up with how quickly capital is and cash is devaluing, right? And so when I started like diving into this hole and hearing about this, you just start to go, whoa, this is something that I think all people really need to have a better understanding of. And I am by far, like, I have not been an investment guy. I mean, I wish I had. I look back, if there's one thing I could say, boy, I regret, I don't regret anything except not having a better grasp of really being a smart investor and understanding money. But when you grow up in this country, you don't get a lot of information and education on money and how money works and how the markets work. I mean, that's not like you don't sit down in school, in Sparta, New Jersey, and they, in seventh grade, they're not telling you how the capital markets work and how fiat currency really works, right? You sort of have to find this stuff out later. And for me, it's come later. That's fine. That's cool. But now I'm really fascinated by it. But this whole inflation thing, which we are experiencing right now, I mean, we're all seeing it. Prices are going up on everything. And why is that? It's because there's more money in the marketplace. And the more they flood the marketplace with cash, the less value it becomes. So the prices of things start going up. Now, fortunately, we are not in a situation where we could enter potentially into hyperinflation because production of goods is still down, and there's a labor component as well too that I don't know that I'm the guy to explain that yet. But I'm sharing this all again because it's fascinating to me, and I'm looking to engage with you, my audience, with dealers, with marketers, with my friends and family, any one of you. These are the topics that I'm fascinated about and want to have further conversations. So I'm putting this out there as a way of saying, hey, I'm throwing the first volley on this topic. I'm hoping that you'll chime back and comment and say, no, Chris, man, you're fucked. You don't know what you're talking about. This is what it really is. Okay, good. I want to learn, but I want to have conversations here on deck with you if you know about this topic, if you want to talk about this topic. But we're seeing it, prices are going up. The value of your cash is going down. People are looking to the markets to find ways to preserve cash and capital, to make cash and capital safe so that it is not depreciating and losing its purchasing power as we move forward into the future. And this inflation and fiat currency piece is really tied for me into the learning process of blockchain and cryptocurrency and what it really means and where it's headed. And so again, I'm like such a newbie on this. I'm just learning, but it's fascinating, and I'm going to keep sharing these topics with you in hopes that it sparks something in you and we can have continued conversation and I can learn. So take a little bit of time, go on YouTube, just watch videos about inflation. Watch some of the financial experts who are out there talking about that. Listen to what they say about what inflation is. I'm not going to say it right now, but do some homework yourself. Look at what's happened in other nations around the world when they've experienced periods of hyperinflation and what it does. Now, I just read something today that I think the Fed is going to start tightening monetary policy to slow this process down as we move into the new year. So it'll be interesting to see and learn about that. But take some time and study up on this. And if you have any meaningful information, please reach out, DM me. I'm dying to talk about this stuff. I'm dying to learn about it. So there you have it. There I am. That's me, Chris Herman. Another episode of On Deck. If you enjoy this content, if you're finding it meaningful, if you want to be alerted to when it's coming out, please subscribe to the Herman Agency YouTube channel. Ring the bell so that you are notified anytime new video content is out. I promise I'm going to keep doing my best to share meaningful information, whether it's just from me here or when we have conversations on the fields of marketing, creativity, technology, life, spirituality. Man, it's an open forum, this On Deck, okay? So, yeah, there you have it. I hope you have a great day. I hope your holiday season is going fantastic. I wish you and your family all the best. So thank you so much from me, Chris Herman, right here on deck at the Herman Agency. See ya.